But the issue is that ECG can only distribute what it is actually given by VRA and the independent power producers. Okay. So if those people don't give ECG the power, they cannot distribute. The problem of cash flow that you must get right is that the Nigerians are not being paid, not because VRA doesn't want to pay them, but ECG, you know, is owned by the government of Ghana, nearly 2 billion Ghana cedis. Therefore, ECG is unable to pay Asogli. Yeah. Asogli gets the power gas from VRA. So if Asogli is not paid, Asogli too cannot pay VRA, and therefore VRA cannot also pay the Nigerians. That is the cash flow problem. It is not that ECG technically doesn't want to pay, but the issue is that, you know, government of Ghana, can you imagine that the government of Ghana, which is not paying ECG, has accepted as a condition for introducing or accepting American money payment of the debt that he owes to ECG. So you can ask yourself a question, well, if you are prepared to pay that as a condition of taking the white man's money, why don't you pay now? You know, so the assurance of car power and all those things is a small screen. That's not to say that in a future stage we will not need to, if you like, stabilize or have in the short term some thermal plants. But I say we'll cross that bridge when we get there. It's a different conversation. The conversation that we have is that will we end Dumso by the end of December? My answer is that, well, if that is what we are looking for, or will Dumso get worse? I think that is an even greater threat to us. Because if the Nigerians don't pay for the stop the gas, it means Asogli will stop. So
for if I get you right, the arrival of the power barges has no bearing whatsoever on as to whether the country will be able to end Dumso. At the moment,
yes. That's what you're saying. That is what I'm saying. Because one, we don't even know when it will come. And I'm saying that there's a clear and present danger, which is that the person that fuels one of the few cars we have is threatening to take away the fuel. And when they take away the fuel, Asogli, which has been our mainstay, will stop running. Because Asogli can only run on gas. And then we talk about Takoradi. Takoradi at the moment is being supplied by Ghana Gas. Well, we say, oh, Ghana Gas is our own gas. Well, the issue is that Ghana Gas is also owed over $100 million. If you work for Ghana Gas, you are interested in making sure that every month you get paid. So you make sure that your pay coming to you goes side by side with your commitment and patriotism. If your pay doesn't come because VRA has not paid, very soon the workers will be up in arms.
Doc, as part of...
Welcome back. Tazan raised some of the issues that you were raising. But before that, let's talk to Mr. Kwame Jantua. Mr. Kwame Jantua is a lawyer. He's an energy lawyer. But I think he's known for his politics rather than his exploits in the energy sector. Mr. Jantua, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And good evening. Good evening, and thank you for accepting to speak to us at this time.
Being in the studio, I'm on NDPC work. We're doing the roadshow in Brown-Hafu for the 40-year development plan.
Great. We're talking about the threat by Nigeria to cut gas supplies to Ghana if we don't pay up some money that we owe them.
Say that again. You're not loud. I can't hear you.
I'm saying we are talking about a threat by Nigeria to cut gas supplies to Ghana if we don't pay up money we owe NGAS. Your party, the CPP, issued a statement somewhere last month saying that if government wanted the general public to accept any increases in utility tariffs, it ought to pay up whatever it owes to ECG and VRA. It turns out government is actually owing more than just ECG and VRA. Government is owing Nigeria Gas as well. Do you think the threat by the Nigerians is a deja vu for the CPP's position on this matter?
Are you interviewing me as an energy person or interviewing me as a party person so that I know how to place my answer.
Both shoes, sir.
Okay, good evening to Kojo. Kojo, I hope everything is well with you.
Everything is well, sir. It's been a while.
Yes, it's been a while. You know, really and truly, these tariff increases is squarely based on the economy. Why do I say that? What are the variables that PURC use in calculating the formulas? I'll list them for you. The Ghana cedi USD exchange rate is one. Inflation is the other. Price of crude oil and natural gas. Fuel mix, that is light crude oil, natural gas, and distillate fuel. Generation mix, hydro and thermal. Power purchase cost, which is for the IPP. Demand forecast. Chemical cost for water and electricity cost for water. If these variables, if there's any alteration in the variable, it affects the tariffs. Definitely, we see that when the cedi drops, everything goes high, and invariably, it affects the tariffs. I believe that government should be able to set aside funds. That's why some of us have been saying all this while that the 70% of the oil revenue we put in the consolidated fund should be reversed. Should be reversed to 30%. Then the 40% should be put in a high interest account where we earn a good interest on it. So that when we have issues like this, at least we can go into that account and pay for some of these things. Because really and truly, before oil came, 2000, were we not paying our debt? Were we not doing what we had to do? And now oil has come and we are even going into deeper debt problems. I think we should really look at the revenue management law and look at the 70% in the consolidated fund that we are putting our money in. Because when you look at how the money is even invested, it is strewn through so many projects that in the end, some of those projects do not even get finished, and some of those projects demand more money. So we need to look at it.
So you are advocating an amendment.
Without energy, the country grinds to a halt.
You are advocating an amendment of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. Hello, Mr. Gentua.
Consolidated fund. I think that should be reduced. I think that should be 30% in the consolidated fund. And then the traditional areas where we get our revenue, we tighten the loopholes, we tighten the wastage. We make sure, because I'm saying, 2000, did we have oil and gas? Did we expect any oil revenue coming in? Were we not paying our debts then? So I think we should look at that clause again in the revenue management law and reduce that 30%, 40% put in a high interest account, which is used to pay insurgencies like this. Because without energy, the program that we are having today would not come on.
So you are advocating an amendment of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act?
Yes, in conjunction with the 70% that we put in the consolidated fund.
And in your view, the request for increases in tariffs is not justified?
In my view, we have not invested in the energy sector, especially power, for so long a time. And now we're beginning to realize that there are so many things that need to be corrected. Infrastructure for electricity. I was listening to a news item on your channel today where the utilities were talking about the type of infrastructure they need to put in place. Why wasn't this done over the years? What was the maintenance culture over the years that it has brought us to this point? We need to have, and I heard my friend Kojo saying, we need the feasibility studies to be able to make sure that the investment we are putting in is worthy. We don't do the feasibility studies. We leave it, and then it gets to a crunch, and then we are all raising our hands and coming back to the people. The people's salaries are not being increased. How do they now pay for increase in tariffs? If salaries were equal to increase in tariffs, yes, then probably we would say that maybe it this present moment, the ordinary person who is working as a public servant, his salary is not being increased, but tariffs are going up every day. We have to look at it and look at it seriously.
But would you not say that this justifies government's decision to get the Americans involved, to manage ECG, for example?
Are we always going to go cup in hand to the Westerners to solve our problem? Is that what we're going to do? I think within Ghana itself, we have people who can manage ECG properly. If people are not doing what they are supposed to do, they should be sacked.
But have we not consistently demonstrated a lack of ability to do so?
Is it a lack of ability? It's a lack of care. It's not a lack of ability. It's a lack of care. Abide there, that kind of mindset should be changed. And if government sets an example, look, Buhari has come into power. Today, you go to Lagos today, you go to Nigeria today, NEPA is working full scale. Why? Because he's put the fear of God in them. And if you don't work, you get sacked. Can you believe over the years, NEPA hasn't been able to provide electricity for Nigerians? It isn't that they didn't have the capacity, they didn't have the ability, they didn't care. Because they were getting money elsewhere from the generating companies, those people who manufacture these generators. And so government should put fire underneath management. If you are not working, you get sacked. Your job is on the line. And you see how people sit up. Hello?
Oh, so hold the line for me. Let me run this by Kojo. The chief executive of the Millennium Development Authority, Engineer Eruka Safo, he said that the Compact 2 of the Millennium Challenge account between Government of Ghana and the Millennium Challenge Corporation of the United States of America is a power pact aimed at transforming ECG in terms of technology and efficiency in the distribution of power. Do you agree?
Well, yes, I agree for what he says. I agree with it. But are they the right people to come and do it? Like my brother said, we can do it. But the issue is that they come in. If I am to run ECG and I say ABC, the way the ABC will be carried down will be carried differently if an American sits there and says that same ABC. You see, we have that fear of foreign. We think that we are not good enough to do it. It takes somebody from outside to come and do. What is it that the American will bring in terms of management that we Ghanaians cannot bring in terms of management? Like my brother said, it's something that we look down upon because it's a government institution. ECG should be made into a mean machine, lean machine. If the person does not work, fire him. I believe in hire and fire and pay well. Look, I can believe that there are contractors and engineers in ECG who are not paid well. So the engineers will not work well and the contractors will not do their work well because they are not being paid well. Pay them well, but if the person does not do the work, then you fire him. Because he knows that he's being paid well and he doesn't do the work, you fire him, he will do the work.
But we have political patronage and all of these, and the chief will come and beg on behalf of somebody. You have the pastors will come and beg. How do you implement these?
Since when has that become part of our culture? Somebody gets sacked, he gets sacked. You see, when you run HR, I run a company, and you realize that when somebody doesn't do well, there are processes. You are given a warning. You are given a warning letter. Then you're put on probation if doesn't go well. Then you're sacked. So at what point is the chief coming to beg? When you're given the first warning or the second warning or when you're put on probation, then to be sacked? My point is, government can do this. It doesn't have the will. That's the problem with government. Government doesn't have the will because it's so huge. And certain people are in government to make money. So to them, the few money they can get, they don't care about the ministries beneath them. They don't care about the agencies beneath them. Look, I can tell you for a fact that there are some agencies beneath some ministries that if you go to their offices, their regional offices, the workers don't even come to work. But every month, they get their money. Why? We are running down the very country we have because we don't care.
Hold that thought for me. Let me go back to Mr. Kwame Jantua. Are you still on the line with us,
I'm
Mr.
still on the line with you.
Okay. You were talking about investments. We know that government doesn't have the money to make the necessary investments. The Americans are bringing in some huge sums of money, about $300 million. This is money we simply do not have. So let's get the Americans, let them come and make the investment. The chief executive of MEDA explained to us that after the investment and after operation for about 10 years, whatever infrastructure that they would have laid would revert back to the state. This is a progressive idea, wouldn't you say?
For a country like Ghana, is $300 million something that we cannot raise? For me, I think where energy is concerned, we have energy problems within the whole of Africa, West Africa being a part of Africa. We have ECOWAS in West Africa. And we say that ECOWAS leaders cannot sit down and fashion a way of budgeting and financing energy for West Africa? Don't we have the West African Gas Pipeline? Don't we have WAPCO? Don't we have? Are we not working together with regards to provision of energy in West Africa? Wasn't it Ghanaians who went to Liberia to set up their electricity system after the war? And so there's collaboration there. Why don't we sit down? Why doesn't West African heads of state and energy ministers sit down and say, look, this is a problem that is facing the whole of West Africa. Let's see how we can raise money to solve it. Are you saying that West Africa, if the countries came together, they cannot raise 300 million? Is that what we're saying? It can raise more than 300 million. They can raise nearly $1 billion to look at energy. Now we have the West African Gas Pipeline. Before the West African Gas Pipeline came, did we even think it would be possible? We didn't think it was possible. Now it is possible. Let's sit down as countries of ECOWAS and try and solve this problem out. After we have sat down, let's go to AU. Because you see, the Congo Basin alone can light up the whole of Africa. Can light up the whole of Africa. Why aren't we sitting as Africans to solve our own problems? Are you telling me that Africa, if we were to put our heads together, we cannot raise $2 billion to look after our energy? Go to Europe. What is happening in Europe today? In as much as politically they have arguments with Russia, of Europe, why can't we do this in Africa? We need that political will. We need to think big, and we need to realize that Africa is for Africans. Americans are bringing 300 million. Over what duration of time? What will that do? How will that solve our energy problem? Are we saying that 300 million they are bringing in, it will stop doom-so? Let's sit down and let's think. Let's think African. Let's make sure that Africa is for Africa and we solve our problems together as Africans. For me, that is the starting point. Once we are able to do that, we have shown by the West African Gas Pipeline that we can work together. We have shown it. So let's move it a step further and look at the financing of energy in Africa. Because through that, we build industrialization in Africa. Through that, we build things like railways in Africa, where we connect every part of Africa, even start in West Africa. And it generates trade, it generates business, and it helps the economy of Africa to grow.
But Mr. Kwame Jantua, is WAPCO really a shining example? Because this evening, we spoke to the general manager of WAPCO, Harriet Wilkobrobi, and the story she told was not a very exciting one, because we were talking about money that is being owed by the state. And this is what she said. She said, yes, we have been engaging government. We have issues. We rely on transport tariffs. So of course, it's a logical conclusion that if you are surviving on something or revenue and it is not coming, how do you survive? This is WAPCO. This is the general manager of WAPCO. So the WAPCO you are citing is, after all, not an exciting example.
You know, I ask myself, why is it that government seems to be broke? Has government come and told Ghanaians why it seems that government seems to be broke. And is government broke? If government is broke, they should come out and tell us. Because everywhere you pass within the economy, we have no money, we have no money, we have no money, we have no money. Yes, international issues also tend to affect some of the revenues coming in. But this is where you sit down and plan. This is where you sit down and say, look, the exportation of just whole goods, our cocoa, our manganese, our all this, without adding value to it, is hurting our country. Let's start from somewhere. Let's start from putting in place an industrial plan. We haven't done this since the Nkrumah regime. Yes, we've had 2020 vision, we have had all this, has it worked? It hasn't. It's high time we sat down and really took a forensic audit of our economy. Because really and truly, I find it embarrassing when government always comes and says, there's no money, there's no money, there's no money. And they are depending on the people alone to be able to pay some of these.
And you think we can do better. I think this is an excellent point to bring this interview to an end. We are extremely grateful to you, Mr. Kwame Jantua. You did great by joining us from wherever you are outside Accra. You are in Sunyani. We are most grateful for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, and good night. At this point, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue with the discussion. Don't go nowhere. Yeah, welcome back. My name is Malik Dabu, and I'm here with Kojo. Kojo is with Gasop Oil Limited. We are discussing a threat by the Nigerians to cut gas supplies to Ghana and the implications, therefore, for our energy and power supplies. And Kojo, you heard Tarzan talking about the financial issues here. We do know that this debt has been long-standing. Government does not have the money. When we spoke to government sources, we were told that there's a certain engagement going on. If the negotiations break down and government is unable to raise the money and the Nigerians carry out their threat beginning from tomorrow and they stop supplies or they cut supplies, what are the implications for seeming stable power supply which we are enjoying currently?
What you should know that the gas coming through the West African gas pipeline goes through Tema to Takoradi. Now, with the Ghana gas also is coming from the west this way. Now, the only problem is that Ghana gas does not come all the way to Tema, so it only goes to the enclave in Takoradi. So what you have is that if let's in case assume that tomorrow the West African gas pipeline is shut down, it means that all the plants in Tema that uses gas would go off. The Asogli, including Asogli. There are other plants which will probably make up about 100 megawatts in the enclave. And
Asogli is giving us about 140, 180
Asogli is the single major IPP in the Tema enclave. But the most of the
when you say IPP, you mean independent power producer,
yes, yeah. in the Tema enclave. So that means that they will be the ones that will go down. But all the plants in the Takoradi, where Tiku 1 and all this other plants are, would be able to, the TAPCOs will be able to work because of the gas from Ghana gas. That will take out about 30% depending on what the level of the water is.
At
Akosombo. It will take about 30% of our power supply off the grid. That would probably take us back to the 12 hours on, 24 hours off scenario. But I don't think it's going to get to that. We have a very good relationship with Nigeria, diplomatically, commercially, and as a member of ECOWAS brotherhood. So even if the commercial or the business talk fails, I'm sure His Excellency the President will pick up a phone and call his brother, and the brother in Buhari will now say, okay, give them some plan. But what is going to happen is that they're going to give you a structure. Like Mr. Jantua said, Buhari came and Nigeria is working in an oiled machinery. Everybody is sitting up in Nigeria. That is something that we're not having in this part of the country.
I heard there's something called the fear of PMB, President Muhammad Buhari.
Well, yes, they are calling him all sorts of things in that country. But the good thing is that they are working. So the worst possible scenario is that they will probably give us a payment plan over a period to pay that debt. Government is going to have to find the money. Look, it's not about increasing, people will make argument, oh, then let's increase tariffs to pay. No, the debt is not about me and you. And they keep burdening us. And one of the things I want to point out is this. There are a lot of people who are not metered. Right now, there are people who are not metered. There are people who are being put on this flat rate because they're saying there's no meter. I have to go and argue to get a meter. They want to put me on a flat rate. I said, no, I won't be on a flat rate. I want a meter. And if you are putting a lot of people on flat rate, and some people don't even have the meter, but they have electricity, how do you expect to make revenue? So the few people that have the meter, you keep piling on the increment to them. And then the others who are just enjoying electricity and not paying anything. So I think everybody should be metered, both water and electricity.
But it takes a hell lot of time to even get the meter.
Exactly. Why? I don't know. But that's my problem. The meter that helps them collect the revenue, you don't even get the meter. So, I mean, that's just beside the point. That's a different conversation.
Does that not then justify the involvement of the Americans because they will bring efficiency?
Well, yes, but we can also instill efficiency. You see,
But we haven't demonstrated.
I am all for the Americans coming in to inject money into ECG to make it run better for me and you. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, if they can do a better job than the existing government control, then by all means let the Americans come in and do it. But my problem now is that even if the Americans come and do it, does that take away the problem of government indebtedness? No, it does not. So government has to find a way. And I have given a solution. The $400 million or so that they owe, if it's true, they should go and bond it. They go to the bonds market, they give that money to ECG, VRA, whoever they owe.
I hope they listen to you.
Well, and I'm sure they have experts that will explain it further to them. That, look, it is possible that you can go to, don't even have to go outside the country, Ghana Stock Exchange. Take it to the debt to them, and they will bond it for you. Take that money, give it to them, and from that day, give everybody, be it the military, the police, the prisons, or the secondary schools, prepaid meters. Government will now go to zero in terms of ECG bills. Ghana Water is another problem, and people don't know that. The water, the electricity that Ghana Water uses.
And you have to close on this. We don't have much time left. It's been great having you, Kojo.
Thank you.
It's been great. You brought light to some of the issues. Viewers, thank you very much for joining us for today's discussion. It's been an enlightening discussion. We had Mr. Kwame Jadua on the line. He brought insight and perspective to this discussion. Good night, and tomorrow we will be back, God willing. Good night. My name is Malik Dabu.